All my PVC is all glued in. All glued in, and man, is that sturdy and strong. Down. Magnet. Got a little Harbor Freight magnet up there to manipulate some of the duct work in while I use my zip-in screws. Got her. Woo! Got it in there, been there. Well, a lot of this work is quite repetitive. This is the last piece of cold air return. I gotta pull it all down and cut the hole. And it goes right in this area that goes down to the two upstairs cold air intakes. There's one cold air intake right here that goes over just above the stairs. Gonna get her all lined up real close to where it's finished. Anyway, just gotta cut a hole in this thing. Welcome back, everybody. This is the last video installment in the series of removing the chimney and removing the boiler and installing a full HVAC heating system. The cooling system is still to come. If you're interested in how to add air conditioning to a gas forced air furnace system, make sure you're subscribed. That video series will come out sometime. One thing I forgot to record was me installing and running the new Thermostat Wire. The one that was there was just a 2-wire, and I think I installed a 5 or 6 wire. I had to fish it up through the walls, and you can see it in some of the videos hanging down. It's real easy to install Thermostat Wire. It's basically color for color. On the thermostat, it tells you R, W, Y, G, B. Those stand for colors. And it's the same thing on the furnace. Just match them up. On a furnace, you're using the red and the white, R and W. That's just your call for heat. The other ones are for cooling. Back when I was building houses, oftentimes we did it in the winter. And how do you heat a house in the wintertime when you're installing drywall? Most of the drywallers would just jumper with a nail or a piece of wire the R and the W inside a furnace, and they would run the furnace full blast 24 hours a day during the joint compound process. It was a horrible thing. They were not supposed to do that. And what happened is a lot of those furnaces failed within the first year of home ownership because they were run just full blast, no furnace filter during the drywall tape and joint stage. Some of the questions that have come up in the comments are about how do you know what size furnace to put in or what size duct. You saw that I was stepping down the trunk lines the further away from the furnace that I got. I started at 30, then 24, then 18 and 14, something like that. It's been a while. So I'm going to go over the textbook way of how you're supposed to do it. There's a manual J and a manual D. These are calculations. The manual J looks at your house. Is it a 2-story? Is it a 1-story? What age are the windows? What is the insulation rating in the attic? Do you even have insulation in your exterior walls? And it will come up with equipment. What equipment do you need? And that would be what furnace? How many BTUs? Here's a quick fact for you. Furnaces are measured in British thermal units or tonnage. 1 ton equals 12,000 BTUs. 1 ton furnace is the amount of heat transfer to melt a ton of ice. And vice versa, a 1 ton air conditioner is the amount of heat transfer to freeze a ton of ice. The more you know, right? So once you have your equipment requirements, then there's a manual D. And that's where they figure out the ducting that will work with the house and your equipment, the furnace. That's how you know what ducts to put in. Then there's the real world. I mostly focus on remodeling these days. I used to just build houses. Now it's all remodeling old houses. These days, most houses in any major metropolitan area are flipped, and they love to find these 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s houses and flip them. Oftentimes, they will have to put in a new furnace. So what do? What's actually done in the real world? They just throw in a 80,000 BTU furnace for a 15 to 1,700 square foot house. Just do it. 80,000, just do it. The duct work, whatever works is what goes in. Now there are general rules of thumb. You do have to step down your trunk lines to keep the velocity of the air up so that at your furthest away registers, there's actually enough air and speed of air to throw the heat out into the room to mix in. If you just have a little bit of heat peter-puttering out of your heat register, it's not going to mix into the room. It's not going to, heat the house. That brings me to another interesting topic of discussion, and that is the noise that forced air systems make. You have to have enough velocity coming out of your registers. If it's thrown too fast, they make noise. So it's kind of a balancing act. Oftentimes the room that the thermostat is housed in will heat up faster. So you can turn that heat register down so that you get more air going out of other ones. It's very, very common for me to come across fix and flips with inadequate heating or cooling. And a lot of them have resorted to installing mini splits. There's a mini split on the wall right now. It's running full speed. Put that in. Has it been 2 years? Maybe it's only been 1.5 years, but it runs great. And that is what a lot of people are using in their production homes and their fix and flips to remedy the inadequate HVAC system that was put in by their fix and flip contractor. A lot of people want to know if their furnace operates correctly. One of the questions that often comes up is,
Handyman, my furnace turns on this many times per hour when it's 10 degrees outside, when it's 30 degrees outside. Is this normal?
A general rule of thumb is 3 to 8 times per hour when it's 0 to 10 degrees outside. That's when you have your thermostat set at a very specific setting, not when it's trying to go up and down. Some people have their heat go higher at certain parts of the day and lower at other parts of the day. Another important factor is the swing setting on your thermostat. The best way to describe this is that as soon as the thermostat detects 65 degrees, the furnace kicks on. As soon as it gets to 66 degrees, furnace kicks off. As soon as it drops to 65, on, 66 off. A swing is like a buffer zone, and it prevents your furnace from cycling on and off too many times. Another question a lot of people ask while watching the previous videos in this series was, are you going to seal the ductwork? And as you can see by the video that you're watching, I did seal the ductwork. It's very important, but not for the reason that you might think. A lot of people might be thinking, oh, it's for efficiency, and you don't want any air leakage because it won't cool or heat your house correctly. I'm going to insert an opinion, which I don't often do. I don't think it really affects your efficiency. I don't think a person is really going to notice
that, oh, my gas bill is extra high this month because there is some leakage.
The heat is still going into your house. It's still heating up your floor space. It's still sucking cold air in. Now, what you don't want is heat coming out of a heat duct and getting sucked right back in through the cold air return right next to it. That's not good. But what you will notice between a very well sealed up system and a not sealed up system is the whistling noise. The noise is what homeowners will notice above anything else of efficiency and cycling is that noise. That's something that you just have to get used to. Something else to expect is if you have a forced heating system, your fan that pushes the air is probably going to be set on its medium setting. That squirrel cage fan that I did show in this video, it has multiple settings that are available to you, a speed setting. You will have your cooling set on the highest fan speed. Your heating will most likely come out set on the medium fan speed. That's what you want. So if you are uncomfortable with the noise that comes out during the heating, and then you opt to have an A coil and a condenser added later, you're gonna have more air pushing through there. Now putting that A coil in line with your heat exchangers will introduce some restriction, so you might balance out. There are so many little intricacies of the furnace. They're not complicated. They're just things that you need to know if you're going to work on them and understand them. So if you've got any other detailed questions, put those down in the comments or hit me up on Patreon. That's where you can get my full attention. You and I can go back and forth through a string of emails. I can make a custom video for you to respond to your question. Beautiful. So there's one thing I haven't really discussed yet, and that is the HVAC pump and this clear hose. That's the water pump to evacuate all of the condensation that comes out of this 96% efficient furnace. One of the major differences between this furnace and your standard 80% efficient furnace is how it collects all the water and gets it out of the furnace. This is their P-trap, for lack of a better term. This is the vent. So water comes down through here, starts filling up, goes over into here. There's a float inside this pump. Once the float level comes up, water comes shooting up out of the clear hose over to the drain. If you don't have a floor drain right next to the location that you put your furnace or your air conditioning unit, you're going to use one of these. Pretty simple. They sell them at every hardware store in the United States of America. So if it goes bad, for $50 to $70, you can go get a brand new one. This is the exhaust side. So all the water runs down the outside of the tube, and there's a smaller tube inside of this. And the air goes through that tube, and there's a catch. So all the water comes down, hits the catch, shaped kind of like a funnel, and goes into a plastic housing. It can drain out either side, so it doesn't have to go out that side. Same thing with the electricity. The gas can also be run out this side. Here is the inside. It looks just like any other gas-forced air furnace. Down underneath the next compartment is where you have your blower fan and your circuit board. It looks exactly like every other furnace. So even though it says it's Mr. Cool, there's not much to this. These things are so simple. This is your gas valve, you got your circuit board, you got your blower motor. The balance of the blower motor, the quality of this motor, the balance of everything are some things that set some blower motors apart from other blower motors, is that they're balanced better. This one here is okay. When it's running, there's hardly any vibration. I have you inside the furnace filter housing. That's a look at the squirrel fan. That's the fan that makes the air come out the vents. Like I said, it's identical to almost all furnaces. This is the cold air return duct, the main trunk line. If you've got a loud furnace or loud ductwork, probably coming from this one. It's just my guess. These crisscrosses here that you see, and this one, this one, this one, that one, it's concaved out. And I'm gonna force this up in. Probably shouldn't do this because it works perfect the way it is. This will be under suction when the furnace is running. And if it sucks it in like that, it'll be running, 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 and then as soon as the furnace turns off, you'll hear a boom. Sucking, whoo, relaxing. That's one reason that your furnace or your ductwork may make some noise. This one doesn't do that. This one has great, adequate cold air return. Couldn't have timed that better. This is kicking on right now. You can barely hear it. Here, I'll put this up to you. Up to it. It's actually quite quiet. If you got questions about your standard residential furnace, put those down below. I'll try to answer them in a future video. I may answer them in the comments. Somebody else may jump in and answer them in the comments. They're very simple. Hopefully, these videos that I made and put out gives you the confidence to do repairs on your own, or you can supervise the repairs so you don't get ripped off. A lot of people get ripped off when they're having their HVAC system serviced. Don't let it happen to you.
Goodbye.